Today in this video, I wish to share with you some new ideas about Einstein's special theory of relativity. Time dilation is an important consequence of special theory of relativity. So what is time dilation? Time dilation means different observers measure different time interval for the same event in space. But this is against Newtonian physics where time is absolute. In Newtonian physics, different observers measure the same time interval for an event in space. So, the difference between Newtonian physics and relativity is that time is absolute in Newtonian physics, whereas time is not absolute in relativity theory. There is an experiment called time dilation experiment, from which the concept of time dilation has been derived. So, this time dilation experiment is very important as far as relativity theory is concerned, and so this experiment is known as the key experiment of relativity theory. An equation known as gamma equation has also been derived from this time dilation experiment, which is equal to 1 divided by root 1 minus v square by c square. This equation is very important in relativity, so it is known as the key equation of relativity theory. I have been conducting research work on this subject, especially on time dilation experiment, for the last 25 years. The conclusion of my prolonged research work is that time dilation experiment is a failure. Or I would like to say that time dilation experiment is an utter foolishness. Because if time dilation can be derived from this time dilation experiment, just the opposite, time contraction also can be derived from the very same experiment. I can prove this scientifically. I can prove this without leaving any trace of doubt in your mind. Now we will see how it happens. Now we will proceed to see how this time dilation experiment becomes a failure. Before that, I think it is better to have a basic knowledge about what is time dilation and what is time dilation experiment. So, what we see here is a representation of the time dilation experiment. Here there is a cabin or a compartment of a train. The height of this compartment is 3 lakh kilometers and the speed of the train is 2 lakh kilometers per second. Here there is a source of light fixed with the ceiling of the cabin. There is an inside observer located inside the cabin, and there is another observer who is standing still on the platform. So this is the arrangement of the time dilation experiment. When the train is traveling at a speed of 2 lakh kilometers per second, the source of light is switched on and the inside observer observes or considers a ray of light that is coming down in a perpendicular direction to the direction of motion of the cabin. So for him, the light ray will follow a straight down path as shown in this figure, covering a distance of 3 lakh kilometers and taking a time interval of 1 second. But the outside observer sees the event in a different way. Since the cabin has moved 2 lakh kilometers ahead in 1 second time, he observes that the ray of light, the same ray of light, follows an oblique path towards forward. So, he measures, the outside observer measures a longer distance to have traveled by the same ray of light than what is observed by the inside observer. So here we get a right angle triangle of its the height is 3 lakh kilometers, which is equal to the distance traveled by the ray of light as observed by the inside observer, and the base of the right angle triangle to be 2 lakh kilometers, which is equal to the distance traveled by the cabin in 1 second time. And since it is a right angle triangle, we can calculate the hypotenuse, which is equal to the distance traveled by the ray of light as observed by the outside observer. Since it is a right angle triangle, we can apply Pythagorean theorem so that we will get approximately 3,60,000 kilometers. So different observers measured different distance. Now what happens is that in relativity, for every observer, the velocity of light will be the same. That means for the inside observer and the outside observer who are traveling at different speeds, for every observer, the speed of light will be constant. That is called as the constancy of speed of light irrespective of the speed of the observer or the source of light. This is the second postulate of relativity theory. When we apply this, T0 is the time interval measured by the inside observer. It will be equal to 3 lakh kilometer divided by 3 lakh is equal to 1 second time. And for the outside observer, the time interval he has measured is T1. It is equal to 3,60,000 kilometers divided by 3 lakh. It is equal to 1.2 seconds. So what happens? The outside observer measured 1.2 second time and the inside observer measured 1 second time. This is what is called the time dilation experiment, and this is the time dilation. So from this experiment, this gamma equation is also derived, which is equal to 1 divided by root 1 minus v square by c square. This is also called the key equation of relativity theory. If you want to get the complete derivation of this gamma equation from the time dilation experiment, you can search in the YouTube and you will get numerous videos on it. So, as far as the relativity theory is concerned, this gamma equation is of much importance, and this time dilation experiment also is very important. If you remove this time dilation experiment and this gamma equation from relativity theory, we will find that the relativity theory is a big zero. Now we will go to see how this time dilation experiment becomes a foolishness. See, this is the very same experiment that we have considered for explaining time dilation experiment. So, if instead of the ray of light that is propagating a perpendicular line, the inside observer considers a ray of light that is propagating in an obliquely forward path like this, then what happens? The outside observer must view the same ray of light in a more oblique path, propagating or following a more oblique path like this, because the cabin is moving in this direction at the speed of 2 lakh kilometers per second. So what happens is that the outside observer measures more distance to have travelled by the same ray of light than what is observed by the inside observer. It is evident from this picture. But what happens is that you are not getting the gamma equation here. Time dilation may be there, or time dilation might be there, but you are not getting the gamma equation. Why? Because here the ray of light that is considered is an oblique path by the inside observer. So you are not getting a right angle triangle here, and therefore you cannot use Pythagorean theorem. More crucial subject is here. Here, suppose the inside observer observes a ray of light that is emitted from the same origin of light, and that is propagating in an obliquely backward direction like this. What happens? The outside observer has to see the same ray of light to follow a less oblique path like this, because then also the cabin is moving in this direction. Here what happens is that the outside observer measures less distance to have travelled by the ray of light than what is observed by the inside observer. Just the opposite of what happened in time dilation. So, in the time dilation experiment, time dilation occurred, but here what we get, if time dilation is correct, then this experiment should also be correct, and time contraction should be the result. It is evident from this picture that if time dilation can be proved from the time dilation experiment, from the very same experiment, time contraction also can be proved. So what is the end result? The end result is that the entire experiment is a foolishness. The experiment itself is a proof for it is a wrong idea. The experiment itself is a foolishness. No academic education is needed to understand the foolishness in this experiment. Only common sense will do. I should say that it is a nonsense. This is a nonsense experiment in the sense that it has no sense at all. So this is my finding regarding the time dilation experiment. Now I hope that you could understand how this time dilation experiment, which is an inevitable part of relativity theory, becomes a failure. My question towards the university authorities, professors and scientists across the world is, how are you going to solve this problem? What is your answer to this problem? What is your answer to my findings? Now I am declaring a challenge and a reward for you. The challenge is this: anybody in this world who disproves my findings, he is going to get a reward of 1 lakh Indian rupees. So I thank everybody for watching my video. Next time I will come with another video on the subject of length contraction, which is another consequence of relativity theory. Just like this time dilation experiment, the length contraction also is a failure. Wait for my next video, and till that time, goodbye everybody.